but this is way bigger and way better and more exciting and more beautiful than you could have possibly thought of.
So many of you may have seen this interview floating around YouTube. It's an interview by Connor Mather, otherwise known as the NPC character from GTA, and he interviews Strauss Zelnick from Take-Two Interactive. Now, for those that don't know, Strauss Zelnick is the CEO of Take-Two Interactive, the company that owns Rockstar Games. And this interview was the first time that we've seen on a consumer level Strauss interacting with the public when it's not something like TV or a Take-Two Interactive's earnings call for that matter. Now, the full interview is in the pinned comment of this video, so if you want to go and watch the full thing in its entirety, make sure you go and check it out. But I have used some clips of it throughout this video just to explain some context. So a lot of the misconceptions in the community is that Take-Two Interactive, this big corporate giant, has come along and swept up Rockstar Games. But Take-Two Interactive have been with Rockstar Games ever since the late 90s. And at the start, Grand Theft Auto was their one franchise that they had.
The team has been at it for quite a while, and when we started, I'm not sure we were in the top 10 or even 20. We're a pretty small company, and we had one franchise, Grand Theft Auto, and apart from that, really no other properties that mattered, and the company was in trouble in an array of ways. So we spent the first couple of years fixing things, diversifying the product line, and creating a bunch of other franchises that have now built the company up so it stands for Grand Theft Auto, thankfully, and also Red Dead Redemption and other huge brands like Borderlands, BioShock, Civilization, NBA 2K, WWE 2K, and the list goes on, as well as a bunch of big mobile properties.
Now, the next thing this leads on to is the three-part strategy that Take-Two Interactive use, and there's actually a strategy which I think is a really good one to have. Clearly, it's worked.
Well, it's a great question. We have a three-part strategy. Try to be the most creative, the most innovative, and the most efficient company in the entertainment business. And if we get those things right, the numbers should follow. So we start with creativity.
Now, this is really interesting to hear Strauss Zelnick talk about, because when looking at interviews with different CEOs of different companies, a lot of them tend to use the word innovate, but they don't really ever talk about creativity or efficiency. They mainly tend to hinge on the fact about diversification of income portfolios. So to hear Take-Two Interactive and come directly from the horse's mouth that their focus is on the creativity of their games, because they understand that Rockstar know what they're doing. So if they leave Rockstar to it, Rockstar will create the best game possible. It's really nice to hear from someone that has the potential to assert power on these games developers. Now, something else that's really interesting is that Take-Two Interactive like to play the long game.
And also letting the audiences anticipate a release, sometimes for a long time, is why our intellectual properties have proven to be so durable. So unlike many of our competitors, every one of our releases inside a franchise has done better than the prior release. And this has been true for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And in most instances, that isn't the case in the video game business. In most cases, you'll see a steady decline release after release, but that isn't the case with us because we take our time and we really focus on presenting something to the audience that they just haven't seen before.
This is really good to hear because with everything we've seen over the past few years, well, past 20 years in particular, Rockstar Games really do care about the final product of the game. The long-term anticipation for the game always pays off for Rockstar Games because they do care about putting out a finished, final, polished product. You'll see this with a lot of games developers out there that will drop a game every year, and with games like Call of Duty, for example, in the past that has been quite damaging because all we've got is a different iteration every year, some of them not living up to the same successes as previous games. Now, another topic that Strauss Zelnick talks about is generative AI.
Yeah. So the recent advances in generative AI, I think, are actually very important for the video game business in that I think our production will probably be much more efficient, and that will allow us to invest in the titles in ways that are less mundane and more creative.
Right.
Whether it's a game changer, I mean, what would make it a game changer? I think some people expect that you could more easily compete with companies like ours with the use of AI. I don't think that will prove to be the case.
Yeah.
I still think that it requires everything that a big, well-capitalized, highly creative company can do. But I think it will mean that our teams can focus less on mundane tasks and focus more on highly creative tasks.
Now, with generative AI, there are some misconceptions about how this is used in gaming. At the moment, one of the newest implementations we've seen is to do with actually creating interiors. being able to assign tags to different items, which then help developers create interiors for buildings. This is something that we saw with a patent filed by Take-Two Interactive for GTA 6, and we know it's for GTA 6 because one of the co-signs on the patent was Aaron Garber, the art director for GTA 6 and the previous Grand Theft Autos. This lends us to believe that they'll be using a form of generative AI to help create interiors, but there's also different ways that AI can be used in gaming, as we've seen with the other patents filed by Take-Two Interactive. It's very clear that in GTA 6, AI is going to play a big role in not necessarily the game itself, but the creation of the game. Now, something else that Strauss-Zelnick dives into is the future of gaming and VR and AR.
Again, I know what the format will look like, and I don't know whether it's hardware driven or purely software driven. I suspect both. I don't think it'll be VR.
I don't think so either.
I don't think it'll be AR. I think it'll be something different. I think the moral equivalent of the creation of the mobile business, which is whatever, 12, 13 years old, 14 years old.
Yeah, I agree with you with the VR. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I don't know. Everyone has this idea that everyone's going to be wearing VR headsets and like walking around. I just don't see it.
Well, I wouldn't want to count out some of the incredibly successful, innovative companies that are pursuing it at great expense.
Yeah.
But I think the notion of consuming entertainment with a vision and hearing occluding headset on, that's tough.
Right.
That's a solitary experience. It's in a dedicated space. It's not an inexpensive piece of hardware, probably ever. And it causes nausea after about 20 minutes for almost everyone, which is a real problem.
Right. I can't.
Nausea and entertainment don't really go together.
Yeah.
And this is a statement I agree with. In my personal opinion, I do love VR games. I've played a couple VR games on the channel before, but for me, the biggest thing that throws me off is it's impossible to not get motion sickness when using them. I know some people can sit in them for 10 hours at a time and be absolutely fine. For me personally, it's a really disjointing experience, having a really hot thing covering your eyes, you can't breathe properly, you can't wear your glasses because they steam up. It's all a bit disjointed. For me personally, my ideal gaming experience is being sat down, enjoying the game on a screen that's a good distance from my face. Now, leading into the control element of Take-Two Interactive, there are some theories out there that Rockstar are entirely controlled by Take-Two Interactive.
Rockstar is highly independent creatively and are the nature of our internal workings across all of our labels is lots of interaction, lots of support, obviously financial support, marketing and distribution support. Creatively, the labels are exercise enormous freedom. We not only want them to follow their passion, we insist that they follow their passion.
From that segment we've just seen, we can see that Rockstar are highly independent of Take-Two. Take-Two clearly trusts Rockstar to do what they do best and to grow and scale the GTA franchise. This independence means that Rockstar isn't having to talk to all the investors above them. They are literally just creating the game they want to make, and then obviously throughout the process consulting with Take-Two Interactive when it comes to funding certain technologies or elements of the game. And this brings us on to GTA Online. Now, GTA Online, we've spoken about it for years that it was never supposed to be the success it is today. That's why a lot of things in GTA Online aren't 100% fleshed out, because they were never supposed to last this long. And this is something that Strauss-Zelnick talks about.
Then the campaign, like, did you expect the success of it to be so large?
No, I don't think any of us did. I think that we saw it as a really interesting add-on to the title. We actually originally had not planned to have virtual currency in the game, so it wasn't going to be an economic, an economic driver.
Yeah.
It was relatively late in the day when we decided to pursue virtual currency, because this long ago, we're looking back at 2013.
Yep.
And it wasn't an immediate success. You may recall it was pretty buggy at first.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
We had some trouble coming out of the gate, and because it was all new and we were innovating and we were doing it all in real time. So it was like building a plane while you're taking off and then flying it.
Right.
Now, with this in mind, we know for GTA 6, they're going to put far more emphasis in making sure the online component of the game is going to be 100% ready when it comes out. This, in my opinion, is what's leading me to believe that potentially we won't get GTA Online on day one of release. And I'd love to hear what you guys think about that below, but I think it's kind of a good thing. The ability for everyone to complete the story, get used to the map, get used to the different characters and complete all the side missions means that when GTA Online comes out, it will be like another game release. Because in theory, GTA Online is totally separate from the main games. And this brings us on to the most interesting part of the interview, in my opinion.
Take criticism from that? Like, how do you guys handle the expectations?
Oh, we definitely listen to feedback from our fans.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You need to in our business, and you're able to. But remember, the biggest hits are always the ones that are unexpected.
Yeah.
And everything that we do has to be new and different. By definition, when people are commenting on something that is in market, that means they're looking at something that was done before.
Yep.
Our teams are focused on what's new that you haven't even thought about. Like you thought you were anticipating this thing, but this is way bigger and way better and more exciting and more beautiful than you could have possibly thought of. So it is true that fan feedback is important, but at the same time, you can't be totally data driven. You have to be creatively driven.
Yeah.
And what's it like to be on the team? Look, it creates enormous pressure on our teams, enormous pressure, because this is, that's the creativity involved in making one of these big properties. It's their life's work, and it's not just commerce, it's art.
A lot of us have tried to theorize and speculate what's going to be in GTA 6, and 99.9% of this is based on the trailer, the leaks, but also everything Rockstar has done in the past. But Strauss Zelnick raised a really good point here. We know absolutely nothing about the future of GTA 6. We know about Rockstar's current progress. We know that Rockstar are working on certain technologies. We know what they've done in the past, but every new Grand Theft Auto game has introduced a technology, a format, or some new different way of doing things that we've never seen before. A prime example is in GTA 4 with the game engine itself and the physics models they used. But with GTA 5, that character switcher was so intuitive to use. That implementation was probably the cleanest character switching system I've ever seen in a game. So with GTA 6, that next step of that next different way of looking at gaming, it's almost impossible, even with the leaks and even with the trailer, for us to comprehend what they're actually going to introduce for the game. So what are your takeaways from that interview with Strauss Zelnick? Please do let me know down below. And of course, make sure to go and watch the full interview, because in this video, I barely touched on any of it. A lot of this interview goes into where Strauss worked before, some of his really interesting things he's worked on in the past, but also the future and current state of gaming. Thank you so much for watching today's video. And if you did enjoy today's video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.